Bow with me, please. Almighty God, we thank you for this day and all of life's blessings. Lord, your word commands us to pray for our leaders, and we take this opportunity to do so now. Lord, I pray that you would restore unity to our society at all levels, beginning in our homes, extending into our churches, our local community, with our local community leaders, our state, and our nation. Lord, I pray for these here tonight that, Lord, Holy Spirit, you will guide them into righteous decisions, and that you would aid them in leading this community in a manner that is both right and just. And Lord, I pray, forgive us where we fall short, and help us to forgive as we wish to be forgiven. And all this we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alderman French. Alderman Patton.
Here.
Alderman Bellamy.
Here.
Vice Mayor Messick.
Here.
Alderman Nichols. Alderman Elam.
Here.
I hear a motion to approve the October the 5th minutes. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any corrections? Call the roll, please.
Alderman French.
Aye.
Alderman Patton.
Aye.
Alderman Bellamy.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Messick.
Aye.
Alderman Nichols.
Aye.
Alderman Elam.
Aye.
Any correspondence? Any comments from the citizens? And would you state your name?
Yes, I'm Wayne Lance. Howard, thanks for the opportunity to be here before we married Alderman. In December 1998, Wayne Lance came to town looking for a site for a Holiday Inn. There was a sign at the interchange. I called it never, and I got James Wilhelm, the then county executive. Mr. Wilhelm said that there was a site for sale for a hotel. It was 29 acres. It was not on the tax rolls. And he would welcome a hotel at that site, but he would also like to join in with the conference center. Would we consider connecting a conference center to the Holiday Inn? And I, of course, said yes, we would. And so we proceeded in that direction. We planned it, had it designed, and I made the presentation against the then county commission. And my recollection is that there were 22 folks there, 22 aldermen at that meeting. The vote was 1 abstention and 21 yeses. It was almost unanimous. They thought then it was a good idea to build a conference center at that location. And so we moved forward. And our deal was that we would build a suit, and the city county had the option to take it down, and they exercised that option. At that time, there was Mr. Gibson, who built the Holiday Inn, was the hotel guy, and I think built the Crown Plaza here recently, was the manager of the conference center. Today, Mr. Gibson manages 35 hotels. Very productive, very smart guy. But the PDA in charge at that time fired him. Not only did they fire him, they sued him. And part of the settlement of that suit was there was a 1 acre tract adjacent to the conference center that is now known as the wedding venue. And so my partners in the deal, I was developer, finance guy, my role was over. But they stayed on as in the hotel business. And so they deeded their 2/3 of the 1 acre tract that your wedding venue sits on today. And that left me with 1/3 interest in that tract. Now I've seen criticism, I don't know whether it's warranted or not, about what's happened at that site. But I can tell you, at that site now you have a hotel, you have a Starbucks, you have an AT&T, you have a Crown Plaza, and you have another hotel that's being built. That's a lot of tax money that probably would not have happened had it not been for that conference center. It's a lot of revenue, that's a lot of sales tax, that's a lot of occupancy that's happened at that location. So when you look at the huge operating losses that we've seen, but you fired Mr. Gibson. Huge operating.
Mr. Lance, this is a city meeting. We did not fire Mr. Lance.
This is
Mr. Gibson.
Yes,
We did not have any decision making in the venue being built. It was built by another PBA, and have you brought this up before the county?
Before, yes, ma'am, I have.
Do you have anything that you want to say before we?
What Mr. Lance related is what the lore is that he ended up with his third interest as a result of the settlement of a suit over disputes about the conference center that he was a partner of. After that, there's a deed to him, or actually a deed from his partners, I believe Manchester Hotel Hospitality, to the, I believe it's to the Coffee County PBA of the 2/3 interest, which kept him with 1/3, what is it, January of '01, Mr. Lance?
Yes, I think that's correct.
From and after that point, Mr. Lance did not ask that the property be put on the tax rolls as required by state law. By state law, if you have property, it's your obligation to request that it be put on the tax rolls and to pay taxes on it. Mr. Lance did not do that, and more than 20 years has now elapsed, and there's a state statute that bars his action against anybody to recover rents and profits from that. And so there's really nothing Mr. Lance can do to get his property back, because he essentially, while everybody else paid their property taxes in Manchester, he didn't pay property taxes for 20 years in the state of Tennessee. Our legislature enacted made the judgment that you can't recover your property or rents if you don't bear your fair share of the taxes for 20 years. That was a decision Mr. Lance made, and so there's really nothing to do. Now, we could go through the history, and there was the barn was built on there with a grant that the Coffee County government got.
Excuse me, did we know anything about this grant?
We weren't in charge of any of that. It was through Coffee County itself, not even through the PBA. And so the county applied for and got that grant. However, they ran it through the states, their business. Then when the Coffee County PBA, when the city took over operation of the conference center, the county dissolved their PBA, and the PBA conveyed its interest in the real estate, which is what we call the conference center, and the rest of that. It owned 100%, and so the city has a half, and the county has a half. And then with respect to this 1 acre that's out there in the parking lot, then the county got a third interest, and the city got a third interest, and Mr. Lance lost his third interest when the 20 years passed. So
The Fifth Amendment says when the government takes your property without compensation, you have the right to a jury, go before a jury. And Mr. Ewell, I assure you that that's exactly where we're headed, simply because of your attitude, self-serving attitude. You published in the newspaper, told the newspaper that I've not paid taxes for 20 years. Did you look it up?
Yes, sir.
You know what the tax record says? The tax record says the responsible taxpayer for that property is the city of Manchester. It's taxed at zero basis. There is no tax. Furthermore, you all transferred the deed without even my name on it. I was not even aware you transferred the deed out of the property into the whatever. And what you did was.
So, Mr. Lance, I'm sorry, this wasn't on the agenda. We could have put it on the agenda, but I appreciate you coming by to.
I'm sorry, ma'am, but I've asked to be on the agenda. I've asked for the conference with you all, and you have simply ignored me. This is a Marxist action. You've gone in and he's claiming squatters' rights that he wants to come in.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
See you in court.
Thank you.
See you in court.
Okay. Any more comments from the citizens?
I'm Katie Riddle, and I'm here representing the Greater Manchester Economic Development Board, which you guys obviously have helped fund. And I'm just here as a person that's going to tell you what's going on with our board. So if you remember, we've been working with an economic development consultant. She's helping us. She had her first meeting where we met with stakeholders and got information about the community. Our second meeting was a town hall work session where we heard from our survey responses. We got over 250 survey responses from people in Manchester talking about assets in our community, challenges, what we want to see in the future. And then the third step is a 2-year action plan. And we're really close to having that. All of you will have a copy when that is finalized. But we met with her recently and we came up with the components of that plan. The big component is going to be a comprehensive marketing package for the city of Manchester. Who we are, who do we want to be, what do we need to do to make that happen. And then we're going to have a list of an inventory of available buildings, and we're also going to talk about the tax deferment program to help businesses in our community. In addition to all of that, we have some great announcements that are coming up, and you guys are going to be excited about it. But one thing I did want to mention, I got to go see the La Rivera Mexican restaurant that you guys are going to vote on for the beer board, and it is just beautiful. We know that space, we've seen it, but when you go inside, it's just beautiful. And fun fact, it's the largest seating capacity restaurant in Coffee County, so I thought that was cool. Do you guys have any questions for me? Well, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Any more comments?
Hey, can I just tell Katie I appreciate her doing that. You know, you come every month and update us. That's great.
And the comment from the mayor is, thank you for your fresh wind that you brought in here. Okay, your zeal. Okay, getting in on to committees and commissions. Safety committee.
Yeah, I want Adam to talk about, we got something coming up on the 19th, it's pretty cool, so.
So, I don't know if everybody knows that Chief Yother, who I think he stepped out and some other business, was selected as the president of the Tennessee Association of Chiefs of Police, which is a very big pat on his back. He's done a great job, and of all the chiefs in the state, he was selected by his peers to take that. As part of that, Chief Yother's brought upon us to do the Special Olympics torch run, which was started by Joe Casey, the retired chief from Nashville Metro for many, many years. He brought that to the state. It kind of fizzled out a little bit, and Chief Yother brought it back to the forefront. And this year, the Manchester Police Department, several officers in our department, and officers all across the state have ran east and west and north and south and covered the entire distance of the state for the torch run for Special Olympics. We decided to end that torch run here in Manchester. So on November 19th, we're going to do that. And we're going to start at College Street campus at 9 a.m. and we're going to run to the Westwood campus. About a mile and a half, we've got the cross-country track teams from the elementary schools that are going to run it with us. There are several agent police departments that are going to participate. Nashville Metro, the Highway Patrol, Brentwood, a bunch of departments are sending motorcycles and cars to help escort the runners as they run from both campuses. And then the schools at Westwood are going to welcome everybody on their softball field and have a little end of the torch run ceremony. And several of the Special Olympic athletes and a lot of our local special needs students are going to be there from the high school as well. So I want to thank you, Chief Yother, for doing that. He's not going to get up here and pat himself on the back. So Chris and me talked about doing it and invite you all to come on the 19th and participate. We'll start at about 9 a.m. and be off the campus by 11. That's it.
Thank you, Adam. Any finance?
We did not have a finance meeting.
Street department?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, water and sewer?
Mayor, we do not have a meeting scheduled for this week.
Recreation? Christmas parade?
Oh, I would like to say something. We were in a meeting and Jeff has got the, what have you got going again? Little League tournaments and whatnot.
Oh, yeah.
And I made a comment in the meeting that between Jeff Houck and Common Johns, that they're doing more for tourism than anybody else is in this town. It's big deal.
Yeah, Jeff is doing a phenomenal job with our athletic tournaments. But Christmas parade is Saturday, November 27th. Lineup starts at 5 and the parade is starts at 6:30. So we hope to see everybody out there.
And the grand marshals are Ray and Jane Markham. Unsung heroes in this town. If you know them, there is so much that they do for this community. Bring in the poor and the hungry, literally, in their homes. And if you've ever been, that nobody can hug like Jane Markham, if you've ever had her chicken and dumplings, and I think half the city of Manchester's had her chicken and dumplings. And Ray, you could say a lot, but when you put them together, they are a team. And they are just, they walk out price. I'll tell you. Okay. Tourism.
We sponsored the chamber lunch today, and it was a very good program. Actually, had somebody from the state speak. But other than that, that's all I have to report. Our next meeting is November 22nd at 5:30.
Thank you. Is tourism got a mural going on or something? I know.
Yes.
Back and forth about that.
It's not totally, we did vote yes on that, but we're still waiting on a contractor.
So I understand that the building, and I spoke to Codes about this, the building that the mural's going to go on, a letter was sent to the owner of that building that it had to be repaired or something had to happen to it. And I went to the Codes Department and I was under the impression it had been done. I took a picture of the building, took it back to Codes, and it has not been done. So
oh, really?
I don't know if that means that letter's still open, but whoever's going to paint on that building, I think probably should ask Codes.
You talked about some repairs that he was going to do before the painting started, but I don't know if that's something he can do.
Well, that's separate from, I'm talking about the letter that Codes sent to the building owner requesting repairs done because rain's pouring in the building's condemnable. And I think the letter said that. And I don't think anybody's aware of that or something, or ignoring that fact. The letter was mailed.
No,
and then Codes told me that it was okay because the repairs have been made. I took a picture of the building. The repairs have not been even remotely addressed. Nothing's changed. Well, I won't say that. There's a yard that's been mowed and a sign taken down, which completely has nothing to do with the structure. And so before that goes any further, I think that should be addressed.
Yes, and it won't be done until we get the proper paperwork from federal. It's a federal grant, supposedly.
Well, not the federal government. I'm talking about our local codes department.
I know that, but I'm talking, he won't be paid and it won't be done.
We had a problem with wording. It was before I signed off on it. What was that, Jim?
It was just from the donation when they got a contract with the.
That's the reason it's still on my desk is.
We just got a request for just pay $5,000. We didn't get any kind of contract.
Yeah, right. That's what we're waiting on. Yeah.
Okay.
Before any of that happens, though, my point is the structure on which the mural is going to be put is, per our codes department, ready to be condemned. That's my only point. I don't care about a mural. I don't care what the mural is about. Before that happens, the building itself needs to be structurally sound and da-da-da-da.
Okay, we'll look further into it. Okay, planning and zoning.
Our next meeting is scheduled for the Monday the 15th. We've got quite a big agenda, so it's at 5:30 if anybody wants to come.
Oh, yes, for sure. And we like citizens to participate. Information systems,
No, we did not have a meeting.
historic zoning.
We canceled this meeting. The next meeting will be December 2nd.
And did I leave anybody out this time? Okay. All right. We'll go into resolution.
Madam Mayor, first thing I have is a resolution to accept the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation Local Parks and Recreations Fund grant amount of $1 million, which requires a 50% match from the city in the amount of $500,000 for field lot renovations at Fred Devlin and Dave King Parks.
I'll make a motion.
Do I hear a second? Did I hear a second? Okay, it is moved and second, and the motion is as presented. Is there any discussion?
Where we getting our $500,000? Where we getting the money? For our part?
No, I understood that, my understanding was that we had the excess money in the $2 million or something like that, and we used part of that for this, is that what changed?
I don't think we ever voted on that, did we?
Well, yes, it was going on.
I don't think that was in the budget amendment.
Tourism is supposed to be putting in some, but we don't really know what the amount is going to be. And that's really important.
Do we know whether that grant will allow us to make the repairs that we need to make to the park? I mean, if that grant says that we have to post it, then that's $1.8 million. If it allows us to make the repairs necessary to bring everything up to code and put LED lights in, new poles and stuff, that's $1 million. But if it doesn't allow us to do that, I don't see why we need it. So we all know what we're voting on before we vote. So where's the grant guy? Is he not here tonight?
Daniel's here too.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
But we do have to stick with the scope that was put into the application.
And what was that?
Just a bunch of things. Let me see. So they talk about the issues with someone getting shocked at the Babe Ruth field, and that we have department that we found that all the wiring on the fields was 30 years old with some deteriorated wooden poles and old light fixtures. It was immediately determined that an investment in renovating of lighting to include new fixtures and wiring LED replacement of all wood poles with metal was the immediate top priority. And then I think there's another section that outlines the fields.
George worked hard on this, and he's got a bid from S&W.
Right.
And it's just a short paragraph, and I'm gonna read it, man. It says the cost for repairing the ball fields will run between $80,000 and $120,000 per field. The Babe Ruth pitch fields needs to replace all the lighting, go to LEDs. The electrical service and all underground circuits need to be rebuilt and brought up to code. Also replace poles and glass pitch. American National League fields need to change lighting to LEDs and check wiring and underground circuits. Field 6, 7, and 8 needs to change all poles to metal and change lighting to LED and bring all electrical wiring up to codes. Can we do that with that $1 million grant? Because we're looking at $960,000, which is $1 million.
I'm trying to pull up the project scope as it is written in the grant application.
And there's the 6 fields that are identified are the Babe Ruth, fast pitch field, T-ball field, field 6, 7, and 8.
Take him. You mind?
Yes, oh that.
So that fixes everything. That will fix everything at the ball fields. All of it. Brings them up to code. Puts new LED lights in. Takes the old post out, puts metal post in. George, you follow me, make sure I'm telling the truth here. Okay?
That's what he said.
So,
How much is that total?
well, at the minimum, it's $80,000 to fill. At the maximum, it's $120,000 to fill. There's eight fields. Right? 8 fields.
6 fields. 6 fields, I believe, is what is in the scope of the project.
So what about the other fields that
But you
not in
had-
the scope of the project?
He also looked at American League and
National
National League,
Yep.
just about the lights.
I believe, Daniel, we have the part that the state applies has to be the 6 fields
Yeah, we can't talk
identified in
about
the
the
scope
other.
of the work.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about the other two, that's a separate
Right.
conversation.
So we take those 2 fields out and just bid.
Correct.
Right, yes, as long as we're talking about the same fields in the scope.
Yeah, it's a separate conversation.
Right. So we would have to stick to the 6 fields identified within the scope of the work to replace the poles. And now the Babe Ruth field has metal poles, so we can keep those metal poles. But the other 5 all need new metal poles and lights to go with them. So that's what, as far as what we're proving for the grant, would cover those 6 fields.
So we got 6 fields at $120,000 to fill, that's $720,000, right?
I believe so.
So-
With this estimate, yes.
It's still a good deal, we're spending $500,000 to get $720,000, that's nothing wrong with
Right.
that.
The other 2 estimates we have for those 6 fields, the low end is 1.1, it goes to 1.2, so this is definitely a better. And that's the stuff when we go to bid, or if we do, like Musco's on Sourcewell, where they provide the materials, but then we have to build, or bid out the installation. But, yeah, but definitely, it's encouraging that there's a better price.
You can thank George Cannon.
Yes, thank you, George.
And Alderman Bassett, he's humble. Both of them, right, George? Both of them.
This grant money can be used for repairs, is that right?
The repairs to the 6 fields that are identified?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, yes. So they will match whatever, so we can spend less.
Yes.
It just has to be matched, whatever we spend. So if we spend $800,000.
$750,000, then we're out 375.
Gotcha, yeah. Trying to do math in my head. So, yes, if we spend less, then, if their match
Right.
is one part, then we just have to match that. So it could be cheaper, definitely. And that would obviously be preferential.
I like to see us do the 6 fields, and then go ahead while we're this close, and they're there, finish up, be done, let's do them all.
But that's a separate conversation, this is just about the grant. That's just about the grant, we can talk about that in another motion.
When, if we approve this to apply for the grant, that does not obligate us to put up new poles, does it not?
This is to accept the grant.
Right, but to accept the grant, is that all new? So
It's whatever the scope of what was submitted is to replace the wood with metal ones. Yes, because that's what we have to say to do. So we would be obligated, if you vote to do this, we'd be obligated to put the metal poles.
Well, you said they needed them anyway, right?
Yes, yes.
As long as we replace those.
5 of the 6 fields, 5 of the 6 need new metal poles.
So as long as they're replaced, whether it's a new $1 million project or a repair bring up to code for $750,000, it's still all good in the grant.
I believe so. Now, this is,
No,
I don't want to commit to.
I believe you would be held to having the new poles as it is written in the grant scope.
Right, then that was in your.
That was in my
estimate.
What it said.
Yeah, I mean, if you want, there's no need to halfway do it, when you're gonna do it, it's just to do it.
Okay.
That's another conversation about that.
Any more discussion?
No, that's the grant. Do it right to the grant.
Yeah. Doing all this, right, it's not in the grant.
Correct.
Okay.
Still don't know where the money's coming
Well, we'll take it out of the surplus, right?
Surplus,
out of
right,
reserves.
we've spoken about, is this the first time we've spoken about that? I don't think so, right? We had it on a piece of paper I saw that said part of the surplus will be used for these lights, is that right?
Where it had been discussed previously.
That's been discussed several times previously.
Okay. Call roll.
Alderman French. Alderman Patton. Alderman Bellamy. Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Nichols. Alderman Elam.
Next thing, Madam Mayor, resolution to approve a contract under $300,000 with Briggs and Maloney Inc. for preliminary engineering and planning for wastewater treatment plant upgrades.
Make a motion.
Okay, under discussion, we're gonna let Bill Griggs come up first.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Board of Mayor and Alderman. What this does, we've expanded the wastewater treatment plant roughly 15 years ago. And before that, we expanded roughly 15, 20 years before that. So this is my third expansion on this one plant. And the plant's running great. And we're not here because the plant's not doing a good job. The plant's starting to reach its capacity. There's a state regulation that says once your plant reaches 80% capacity, you're expected to start planning for your next expansion. Because these expansions take so long. It's roughly a 4 to 5 year project from start to finish. Right now, you're about 77 or 78%. Is that right, Brian? You're around 74%. The reason we're coming to you now is 15 years ago, Brian and I, and the mayor at that time, Mr. Norman, saw these federal grants coming. So we came to the city, and several of you were on board then. We said, let us get started with the preliminary work to put Manchester at the front of the line when the grants get here. And that's what we're asking for today. If these people in Washington ever make up their mind and start working together, we feel like there's going to be grants coming this year, these few months. What this proposal does here is lets us get started so we can work on your behalf, do the preliminary work, which takes time. Preliminary work being getting the permits, getting the site drilled, get the easements surveys, make sure we've got enough easements. If we don't have enough easements, we'll need time to get additional easements, but we need to confirm that with a survey. Also put enough plans together so that when the time comes and grants are available, hopefully Manchester will be first in line and say, we're ready to go. Let's have at it. And that strategy worked last time. If y'all remember right, at that time, we estimated the expansion at that time to be $12 million. We were first in line in Tennessee, and Manchester got a $5 million grant, almost half the project.
We got $550,000 through the federal government on another grant with the same project. So we ended up $5,550,000.
I don't know if we'll be that successful this time or not, but if we don't try, we won't be. So what we're asking you tonight is to give us a chance to get started. This does not obligate you to the whole project. It's just the preliminary work. We got to get on these people's schedules. We got to get on the driller schedule. We got to get on the surveyor schedule. We got to get the permit process through the state of Tennessee. And we got Christmas coming up, and they seem to stop everything during that time of year. So we're trying to get there before they take off. But if y'all get us started, I think we can do some good work for you. Many of y'all heard me say before, I personally feel like there shouldn't be any grants. I think every project should stand on its own. But as long as there are grants out there, my clients are not going to get our fair share. My clients, we're going to get more than our fair share. And I don't apologize to anybody for that attitude. It doesn't bother me a bit for somebody in Ohio to get shorted because that money's coming to Manchester because we're ready and they're not. So that's what we're asking for tonight. Yes, sir.
So how durable is this engineering? Because we've got to do this anyway because we're running, our capacity is going to be eventually tapped.
Yes, sir.
So you do this today, and then how durable is engineering on this? Like how long would it last if we didn't do it right now? Just what you're asking for.
Excellent question. The project, we're looking at about a 30-year life. Looking at a 30 years lifetime. Brian and I personally talked to the state of Tennessee 4 times asking about the permit. And the permit, because of the size of the river that we're discharging into, they're going to limit us to 6.9 million gallons a day. We think that will satisfy Manchester's internal growth that you've been experiencing for about 30 years, maybe 35 years. Has nothing to do with mega site. If the mega site never comes, this stands on its own. And I don't know where you're going to allow your customers to come from. I'm just at the at the wastewater plant. I'm going to treat every gallon that comes there. This board will decide what customers are taken onto your system. That's not my decision. That's your decision. And your planning department's decision. But whatever comes to that wastewater treatment plant, I have to treat it. And we treat it very well. I hope you come down there to the wastewater plant, we'll pull up, and I've done this at the Rotary Club. I'll take a glass of water out of the wastewater plant, and I'm taking a glass of water out of the tap, and I said, can anybody tell the difference? And you can't. Doesn't mean I'm gonna drink it. But the plant's running well, and it'll continue to run well. You have a good crew. But to answer your question, this expansion will use you up. Will use up your river.
Well, I guess I meant more about how durable is the engineering part, like the work that you're doing in this $300,000 that the water department's getting ready to hire you to do. Let's say we don't get the grant. Let's say it bumbles along for 3 years, 4 years. How durable is this expenditure?
Good question. When we come back with the work that we've done, which we think will be in the spring of next year, at that time, this board, you'll know if you got the grant or not. You'll know which the flows are. And you might say, Bill, we're going to wait 2 or 3 years, and this work will still be valid. Because the drilling will still be good, the ground's not going to change, the rock's not going to change, the surveying's not going to change. Hopefully we'll have a permit in hand at that time, and that won't, as long as we pay the renewal fee every year, that won't change. Okay. So, Mr. Nichols, everything we do will be good for, I don't want to say forever, but be good for the foreseeable future.
Perfect.
Any more questions? I thought it was really interesting that Bill Griggs is engineering for the city, and the industrial board has hired Ryan Maloney to do for the mega site. So,
let me apologize. I should introduce Ryan Maloney, my new boss.
they keep it. There's definitely a dividing line.
Yes.
So, and I thought that was interesting that if you hear that Ryan is doing all this engineering for the mega site, the industrial board has hired him to do that, and I think that was really important to me. That
we purposely did not cross paths. So
that was interesting to me. But anyway, any more discussion? And it was the approval of your board, right?
Yes, it was approved last month. One more tedious thing I want to bring up about this.
I'm a tedious guy.
Well, this is more of an informational thing, and what you can do is keep me, okay? So the mega site is being, I'm on a mega site committee. We talk about the wastewater is the biggest problem out there to solve. And it may come at some point that we have to commit our excess capacity to this mega site before we build a facility that will handle the wastewater from the mega site. Assuming a big outfit moves in, a big tenant comes. If a smaller tenant comes, it's not that big a deal. But I just want to put that out there that the day may come where we have to allocate our excess capacity and wastewater flow to that project, but does not mean we're giving up our excess capacity.
It's only an interim.
It only means that we are, in the meantime, in an interim period, committing that somewhere else, and then we're going to expand even further our wastewater capacity to accommodate whatever tenant occupies the mega site, assuming that ever happens. But that's just something I want to put out there. So a little tedious, but did I say that correctly?
I'm not involved in mega site.
Brian, did I say that correctly?
I think you covered it very well.
All right.
Could I use the word instead of have to? We have to decide as a board. The board may decide.
Well, I mean, we're going to have to talk about that coming forward, is what I mean.
Right.
That's an issue that's going to come up forward.
I mean, it's
Not decide, we'll say no. Say yes or no. But we're going to say yes. We're all going to say yes on that.
Any more discussion? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Call for it, please.
Alderman French. Alderman Patton. Alderman Bellamy. Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Nichols. Alderman Elam.
Madam Mayor, a resolution accepting the Coffee County Hazard Mitigation Plan.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, it is moved and second. The motion is as presented.
Chief Chambers, you want to speak to this a little bit, so we all know what we're doing?
The hazard mitigation plans that the county and FEMA and TEMA approved, as we view this resolution, and that'll give the street department and other parts of the city access to federal funds to, say, raise the bridge at Skinner Flat, buy the property behind the rec center, and demolish that house, and the house that floods again. So it gives us access to those federal funds to make these repairs, to mitigate some of the wastewater hazards and those other things here in the city of Manchester. Without this resolution, we do not have access to those federal funds or TEMA funds.
Any more discussion?
Alderman French. Alderman Patton. Alderman Bellamy. Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Nichols. Alderman Elam.
Resolution to approve the job description for payroll accounting assistant.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Do I hear a second? It is moved and second. The motion is as presented. Any discussion? If not, call for it.
Alderman French. Alderman Patton. Alderman Bellamy. Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Nichols.
No.
Alderman Elam.
Resolution to approve the job description for public service officer 2.
Do I hear a motion? Do I hear a second? Second. It is moved and seconded. The motion is as presented. In discussion.
What's a public service officer?
Can you answer? That is the individuals that work at the front of the police department. There's a bit of a change in that description just to add some more responsibility and things like that.
And $6,000 a year in payroll. That number I heard, 30,000. Pardon?
I think it's like 3,500. What's the payroll?
32.7 is what I understood it was being approved at from the safety committee.
And what was the old one? What was the old one?
Not as much.
No.
Not as much, yeah.
No.
Isn't it 32 for this budget year and then 6,000 for next?
That they make up in their budget, the department.
Yeah, it doesn't change anything.
Right, there would be no increase in there.
So what's the advantage of this increase?
So we're adding some responsibilities to this position we're wanting to hire for. This will be a backup to Dawn, our court clerk, and Tanya, who reports to Tigris, the state reporting system. Right now, there's no, the PSO we have does not know how to do that. So if either of those were to leave, retire, quit, we don't have a backup. So this job would be their first duties, the current PSO 1. And because we're adding some responsibilities, they would be able to fill either of those 2 positions if they were to leave also.
They're basically taking steps on that position to work towards some succession planning, which really does need to be done.
So we're not adding a new person, right? We're
No.
filling Debbie's job.
Exactly.
Debbie Vaughn retired, we're replacing her and adding some responsibility to protect ourselves in the future.
Any more discussion?
Alderman French. Alderman Patton. Alderman Bellamy. Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Nichols. Alderman Elam.
Mayor, we're into the ordinances. First reading of ordinance to amend Massachusetts Code 4217 to designate an additional legal holiday, Juneteenth.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, it is moved and second. The motion is as presented. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Alderman French. Alderman Patton. Alderman Bellamy. Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Nichols. Alderman Elon.
First reading of an ordinance amending Title 14, Chapter 6, Section 22 of the Manchester Municipal Code, same being zoning ordinance of the city of Manchester to amend that ordinance and zoning map to provide that real estate owned by Carl Howard Parker and wife Cynthia Jean Parker be rezoned to R4 residential from R3 residential. This is Hills Chapel Apartments.
Do I hear a motion?
Motion.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, it is moved and second. The motion is as presented. Is there any discussion? Call roll, please.
Alderman French. Alderman Patton. Alderman Bellamy. Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Nichols. Alderman Elon.
First reading of an ordinance amending Title 14, Chapter 6, Section 22 of the Manchester Municipal Code, same being the zoning ordinance of the city of Manchester to amend that ordinance and zoning map to provide that real estate owned by J.O. Phillips Jr. be rezoned to R4 residential, I-1 industrial. I drew these descriptions from the 40 acres because it's all described together right now, and by the final reading, we need a separate survey description, but this at least gets it passed on this reading if it's the board's pleasure. I just had the tax assessor's office scribe a line, and they told me that the first 10 acres was 660 feet off Interstate Drive. What I was sent says they want to zone the first 10 acres commercial and the back 10 acres R4 residential, and so it's just an estimate based upon the tax assessor's office provided, but by second reading, they need to have this survey to be more exact. So it's not precise as written because we didn't have it, but it's not misleading.
If the total of 40 acres, the front would be the 10 acres and the back would be 30.
Correct.
You said the back 10 and the front 10.
I'm sorry, okay, well, yeah, I'm sorry, with this, the 660 feet by the width of it is roughly 10 acres on the front. So.
I make a motion.
Do I hear a second? It is moved and seconded. The motion is as presented. Is there any discussion?
I have a question, okay? And I'll just tell you all up front, I'm going to abstain because I'm handling this transaction. But I have a question. What if this doesn't go through? Does it, I mean, we changed the zoning ordinance on that piece of land because the buyer wants to. All right, what if the seller says it doesn't go through, the seller says, I don't want zone R4, I want it back industrial? Can we, is there a way to vote on this contingent on the fact that this contract follows through to close? Is that something that, am I way out on that?
I don't think you can do it contingent on stuff. I've been to something that talked about contract zoning and some other stuff, and I don't remember how it shakes out. I think they frown on it. I think you would just really repeal the ordinance. It would be a simple matter to just repeat it.
I'm just curious.
Any more discussion? Call roll, please.
Alderman French. Alderman Patton. Alderman Bellamy. Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Nichols. Alderman Elon.
First reading of ordinance amending the budget order for fiscal year 2021-22 on the 16-19.
Do I hear a motion?
So
Do I have a second? Hear a second?
Second.
Okay. It is moved and seconded. The motion is as presented. In discussion. Call roll, please.
Alderman French. Alderman Patton. Alderman Bellamy. Vice Mayor Messick.
Absolutely.
Alderman Nichols. Alderman Elon.
That's all that I have on this matter.
All right. Right now, we're going to make a decision tonight of the job description for codes and zoning. Do we keep codes and zoning as it is, or do we take certain job descriptions out, and that would be public works, civilization, TDOT projects, multimodal grants, and looking into fire department, going to the fire inspector, going to the fire department, That would go to Public Works.
I'll make a motion for option 2, but I'll leave that open for discussion if we get a second.
Second.
As far as the fire, so I understand that INTAS has an opinion of that. I think the customer service opinion makes sense. It just sounds logical. We got field codes, fire codes, with the code department. So I don't think I'm for moving the fire inspector. I think that's probably not, both our fire department and our codes department think that it fits where it fits. And they're the ones that have to work with them every day. In that scenario, it just seems, why would we go against the grain? I understand PDOT's got an opinion of that, but it doesn't seem to me that there's much to that other than that's just how people do it.
Well, I think we do it just because that's how we do it. I think MTS's opinion is way more experienced than our local continue to do it like we've been doing. So I would support moving the fire department, the fire inspector to the fire department, just based on greater experiential knowledge than what
we're going to put this person in the fire department.
That's it.
Like you don't have, we don't know if you got an office, you don't know anything.
Do you have a place?
No, ma'am, I do not.
Yeah, I mean, that's.
I have no place to put anybody else in the fire department.
Well, and I don't really want to get, like, I'm not even trying to get the conversation to that. I'm thinking about structurally, what makes most sense. And I would not.
I just have to defer to greater knowledge on that.
Sure.
So you're saying MTS has greater knowledge than we do?
Correct.
No, sir, you're wrong.
But can I say, can we do this tonight? Do this other, and the fire?
Yeah, that's what I asked, is that even?
I've asked some contractors, and they've done lots of work in this town, and they may stop by and say hello, but they say, and an engineer, that they don't stop by, and I'm still, that's just one engineer, I don't know, but I'm not solid on that. Are y'all solid on that?
I'd like to make a motion to amend Ryan's motion to make a motion to leave fire inspector where he's at and remove him from Ryan's motion.
What was your motion?
Well, so I didn't want to address the fire. If that needs to be debated, I think it needs to be debated in a forum.
Right.
And I don't know that it has anything to do with this. I understand we're looking at, comprehensively looking at the whole entire process, how it works. What I would like to do tonight is pass this job description, less a decision on the fire inspector.
So that was the first motion, right?
Correct, before Alderman Bellamy moved to amend it, but I would like to draw out that currently Code Section 20-102 designates the codes and health department to act as a fire inspector, so it would require an ordinance change to make that change. Rather, this job description won't do it. We'll have to amend it by ordinance, but we can very well do that. Whatever the board's pleasure is, but approving this job description won't do that. It will require an amendment to this ordinance.
So that's pretty important if it's required unless we change the ordinance, right? It puts a lot of weight on it being in Coast Department, or was that in our charter?
It was done that way for a reason at some point in time. I don't know. It says that this code set the objectives was in February 2010. So in February 2010, the decision was made for some reason. It looks like that's when it was added. So yes, it was done by ordinance to start with.
So where are we at?
So my original motion would be fine with leaving that decision out.
We need to vote on it. There's a second to Alderman Bellamy's motion to amend it yet, and then we vote on the amendment first and then go back.
Okay. So you'll change his. So did you made the motion, was it second? The one you made in originally?
Yeah, I say.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I made a motion to
amend that motion.
Amend
Ryan's motion to leave the fire inspector in the code department where he's at now.
And I second.
Okay, it is moved and seconded on the amended motion. As
Now,
presented.
we've got past the amendment.
To amend the motion.
On the-
To vote.
To amend the motion that you presented.
So-
Where it is. Okay. Any discussion?
So I'm going to vote against this, although I just stated that I am for leaving them there. And right now, my gut feeling is to leave them there. That seems to make sense from what I've heard. I would really rather than us make a decision on this tonight, we have a discussion about it specifically. And if in-tax need to be involved in that discussion, and our department heads to be involved in that discussion, I'd like to have a more rounded discussion about this. So that's why I'm going to vote against the.
I thought that's what we're doing. We're leaving that out to discuss it at a later date.
No,
Well, this motion is making a decision on it.
tonight.
To
keep
leave
it
it
Well,
there.
Bob amended Ryan's motion.
Which I suppose could be temporary.
Right, you can't.
Everything's
We just bring it back up again, right? We just bring it back up again. It's just for tonight.
Okay.
It's just for tonight. We bring that back up again if there's a will of the board to do it.
Any more discussion on the amended motion? Hold on.
Alderman French,
It's okay.
Alderman Hutton, Alderman Bellamy, Vice Mayor Messick, Alderman Nichols, Alderman Elam.
Have the motion as amended.
Never a liar.
Okay, it is moved and seconded that the motion has been amended. No, the first motion that,
Ryan May has been
Ryan May.
amended. Now we'll vote on the amended motion.
okay, on the
And I'll
amendment.
have discussion.
I will leave my motion because I could have said it about it.
No, it's been amended and changed. It's for discussion.
We'll go.
Call the roll over. Either call the roll or have discussion at this point.
Okay, is there any discussion? Do we know what we're voting on?
Adopt the job description and keep the fire person in the code department.
No more discussion, call the roll, please.
Alderman French, Alderman Patton, Alderman Bellamy, Vice Mayor Messick, Alderman Nichols, Alderman Elam.
I'd like to make a motion that we resolve this sewer situation, and I would like to give a 30-day, so I'll make a motion that we give a 30-day notice to the bonding company that we wish to pursue the entire project, and give Gerald the ability to write that within that scope, including the project that they want to pull out. We give them a 30-day window of notice that we want to continue that. Is it, I'll pause here, is it even necessary that, I would like at that point, as soon as we get word from them, if it is not satisfactory to our request, that we go ahead and open up the bid process as soon as possible. Because as a couple of them have said, that in theory, it could be less than 30 days. They could respond, if we give them notice tonight, they could respond the 10th. Doubt they will, but I would like for that bid process to open immediately, or as immediate as possible.
Okay, I think you do as immediate as possible. If I think it needs to come back, I'll bring it back.
That may,
Second.
And to hire outside counsel.
and hire outside counsel, yeah. Well, yeah.
Now second.
Okay. It is moved and seconded. The motion is as presented. Is there any discussion on it? And I can say that I'm very confident in Attorney Yule's ability to handle this, but he was the one who said he wanted outside counsel.
Well, I'll say this, I have confidence in everybody that's involved in this on our side. I have confidence in our engineering, I have confidence in our department, I have confidence in our council. This is an unfortunate situation. It's terrible. I know people are frustrated by it. So I'm happy to see that there's going to be some type of resolution.
And I'm sure the citizens of Manchester will be too. Me, one. Okay, no more discussion? Call the roll, please.
Alderman French.
Aye.
Alderman Patton. Alderman Bellamy. Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Nichols. Alderman Elam.
Okay, do I hear a motion on the revised public service contract? And Attorney Hill, would you like to explain that?
Yes, Madam Mayor, this, of course, we can rehash all the bid and the negotiations with Republic Services. We got a form checklist contract that they sent up here that we approved. Then they didn't like it because it didn't have enough commercial in it, and came back and talked with everybody. We had a big meeting about adding commercial and identifying it as such. I got a revision from them that I think goes beyond what we talked about here. I think it's some overreaching by on their part. The contract they sent me back begins the 4-year period again as of, I think, October 2021 instead of January 2019, and since it gives them 2 more years of contract, it adds 10-yard dumpsters in it that have never been in anything before, and maybe Mr. Gannon could help us with what that really means in the garbage business. The original submissions up to this point only had as far as 8, but then this revision I get has 10 in it, 10-yard dumpster. Is there?
I had never heard them say anything about a 10-yard.
I think we need to go back and forth with them and just not approve this revision, and at least figure out what they're going after. I just kind of want the board to know that that was out there. I know there's been some contact made by Republic Services. We've got more of a mess now than we started with, I think.
So we need anything on that?
No, I'll bring it back up next month if we can get this straightened out.
I think you're right, though. It's not what we agreed on.
One thing I'd like to bring up that I left out is, Jamie he turned in his notice, but I don't know how long his clearance will be at APC. It could be 2 weeks, it could be a month. But I can tell you there's a lot that's going on in codes and zoning. So we need to start this interview process really quick. What I suggest is we do like we did with the director at REC, and we get a committee. I would ask that every alderman have an opportunity to do the Zoom like we did. We can't be in the same room when we listen to these applicants, and then we'll narrow it down to 3 people. I would encourage everyone in here, every alderman, and then we'll get 2 or 3 more, and it is a really critical role, but there's so much going on right now that we need to not let this drop. So we need to move fast on it. So that is my suggestion. Do we need to vote on that?
No, you're doing that one, aren't you? Is that purview? Is that the mayor's purview?
I think so. I think the mayor can do that by 5. Just do it, Mayor.
I agree with you, but congratulations, it's your thing.
Well, I want everybody. I want everybody to be in on this. I want to work at an hour that everybody can interview. And if you don't interview, I like the way that Ryan said, I'm not going to interview. I can't be on the interview process, but I'm not going to second guess you at the end of the journey. You remember saying that, Ryan? That really. So everybody good with that? That way we won't back up, we won't go through all this process and then back up with Johnny come lately and said, I'm not talking about this board, I'm talking about maybe 3 other people. And encourage him if you can come to every meeting. If you start missing meetings, you shouldn't be in on it will go to the board for a vote. That's the end process. But I hope I make myself clear.
You can't dip in and out of this, because you can't not listen to one interview and go listen to another interview and think you've made a good decision. Right, you gotta commit.
And that was what my statement is. There was no way for me to be involved in all those interviews, so I'm certainly not going to second guess.
No, I can't do it either.
Y'all's leadership on this, so whatever the contingency that does participate in all of the interviews will have my support.
Okay. On the line, you have,
No, I want to thank everybody for the addition of the G19. Also, fireworks, to my knowledge, I think we're probably the quickest city to adopt that into our fireworks program. So, and so we had a curve on that one, so that was cool. And I want to thank everybody for that.
on the patent? On the,
Go ahead,
Melanie.
Chris. Go ahead, Chris.
It's been a long night. It's been a long day. On the Melanie.
Everything's great.
Okay, Vice Mayor Bassett. No, Vice Mayor Bassett.
I want to thank everybody, all the department heads, correct, but I just want to thank George for going above and beyond on this ball field line thing. He set all that up, he spent a whole day down there with those people, and he didn't have to. So, he got kudos to you.
No.
On the nickel. Okay, with that, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
This meeting. Do I hear a second? All approved, just hold your hands up. Okay, and we'll have a beer board afterwards.
I was looking 0-0. There's two permits. The first one is, I want to have the name, Juan Chirachi. This is La Riviera Mexican Restaurant, former Applebee's Country Cooking. This applicant and the property both meet the requirements for a beer permit to be issued.
Make motion.
Any discussion?
Hey, Juan, whoever's restaurant this is, thank you for coming to Manchester.
Thank you. Is the same ownership as in Shelbyville? Same
Yes, sir.
Group? I eat there a lot. It's fantastic.
Thank you. We're glad to be here.
Thank you.
Looks nice on the outside.
Thank you, ma'am. You like the inside too.
When are you going to open?
We're thinking about the 15th of this month. It's a Monday, so. Yes, you're all invited. Thank you.
Alderman French.
Aye.
Alderman Patton.
Aye.
Alderman Bellamy.
Aye.
Mayor Howard.
Aye.
Vice Mayor. Alderman Nichols. Alderman Elam.
The second one is Jigish Patel. This is for Hollett's Shell. Was previously occupied by Quick Barn. This location applicant also meet the requirements to be issued a beer permit.
Make a motion.
Second.
Any discussion?
Alderman French.
Aye.
Alderman Patton. Alderman Bellamy. Mayor Howard.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Nichols. Alderman Elam.
That's all.
Thank you so much.